having Sherry's Berry's signature gift box with a beautiful ribbon. No gift wrap required. Right now, my listeners can send Sherry's Berries or any of their decadent gourmet gifts to their Valentine and save 20% on gifts over $29 with my promo code PROGRESS. That's promo code PROGRESS. Fresh, juicy strawberries dipped in milk, dark and white chocolatey goodness, then topped with rich chocolate chips, chopped nuts, and signature swizzles. Choose the delivery date, and it's guaranteed. Customer satisfaction is always number one, or your money back. There's only one way to get 20% off an unforgettable gift over $29 from Sherry's Berries. Visit berries.com, berries.com today, and enter PROGRESS at checkout. That's berries.com, code PROGRESS. Again, berries.com, berries.com today, and enter PROGRESS at checkout. Berries.com, code PROGRESS. Don't forget that, y'all. All right? 866-99-SERIOUS. There was a protest at the site of the R. Kelly concert here in New York just the other day, and we want to hear all about it. We're going to hear now from an organization we're going to learn all about too. Black Women's Blueprint joins us now, and of course we're streaming Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Make it plain. Black Women's Blueprint joins us in the persons of Sevonna Brown and Farah Tanis. Farah, am I pronouncing your last name correctly? Both your names, really.
You got it.
Okay, I'm great. Savannah, how are you?
I'm well. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Glad to have you both here with us. You all were out in the streets the other day. Tell us, Savannah, what was going on?
Yeah, so we took to the streets. We caught wind that R. Kelly was going to be in town in New York City, and he was having two shows, actually, one in Midtown and then one in Chelsea here in New York City. And a sister reached out to us and said, we've got to shut this concert down. So we took to the streets and also virtually, when we mobilized using the hashtag Mute R. Kelly, because we wanted to go out and make sure that we denounced child sexual abuse across industries and across specifically in the Black community, because this is something that we really need to deal with inside of our own community. So we went out, we took our signs, and we had our bullhorn, and we made sure that we made noise, but we also educated folks who were on the line to go inside of the concert. So we had two protests, actually, one that was led by youth in the evening at the High Line, and one that was led by us mobilizing with hashtag Mute R. Kelly, at Freck Concert Hall.
Farah, is it true, I guess, that in all this discussion, Me Too, Time's Up, all of that, R. Kelly really hasn't come up as much recently? This story, we learned about him some time ago. Isn't this a way to kind of put him back on Front Street and make him prominent again so people can see what he's been up to?
I don't think so at all. I think making him prominent, it's kind of I would say it's a misrepresentation if folks think we're making him prominent. I know that some folks think that. What we're doing is we're raising awareness about who R. Kelly is. We're reminding folks about who R. Kelly is in our community and how much harm he has caused. This is someone that we want everyone to hear about and to remember and to never forget, just like with everyone else who has caused harm in our community, whether we call them perpetrators, whether we call them harm doers, whether we call them child abusers. We want folks to know that R. Kelly has a long history of abusing, exploiting, coercing sex out of young women who are minors. And there's a grooming process that goes on with that. We've been watching R. Kelly for many, many years. And so we want folks to remember that, and we wanted to highlight that. If his concert is highlighted at the same time, yes, we want the concert to be highlighted, but that's just that's a concert that he's having. What we're highlighting is here's a man who is known to be a sex offender and abuser in the community doing a concert that we are supporting when we should not be supporting. There were people on the lines where there should not have been people on the lines, because our communities should matter more. Our Black girls should matter more. Our Black women should matter more, and our Black young men should matter more. 1 in 6 young men, 1 in 6 men and boys are sexually abused in their lifetime. So this is a community issue. What I felt we were highlighting was the community issue.
And let me just, maybe I wasn't clear. I don't mean make him prominent. I meant make his behavior prominent again, because people need to be.
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
Okay.
people do need to be.
Yes.
Because again, this is kind of it's interesting. I mean, we don't really even talk about Bill Cosby anymore.
I know.
Which don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking, because for a while Bill Cosby was the poster child. And now we're seeing how widespread this is, and it's good that these other people are being exposed. But it also, R. Kelly was kind of a singular story. Then it got overshadowed. But I think I'm agreeing with you all. People need to be reminded. Well, we've seen this movie before, and a lot of it has to do with R. Kelly, right, Sevonna?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And we actually faced a lot of resistance within the community as we organized this protest, and this direct action helped us see that we have a long way to go in terms of education within the community. Because I think, as you're pointing out, when things come up in the media, people focus on them and there's momentum around it for a little while, and then after that, people go back to dancing to the same music and watching the same shows, and we're not really thinking about the Black women and girls whose lives have been impacted. And I like to tell people there's 150 consequences of rape and sexual assault. That is from economic instability to dropping out of college to post-traumatic stress disorder, right? So after we are done kind of hooping and hollering about these artists or these celebrities who have caused this harm, we forget about the Black women and girls. And so that's why, as Farah noted, we took to the streets to do our education and also remind people that this is ongoing and this is not over, and this is a fight that we have to continue to fight together.
Sevonna Brown, Farah Tanis with us. Farah, you are the executive director of Black Women's Blueprint. Tell us about the organization and how it came about, how it came to be.
The organization came about in 2008, a very political moment, right before the election of Obama, and Black women were being asked whether we were voting our race and our gender. That is a fight and a struggle we've been having for hundreds and hundreds of years. We have to choose between our race and our gender. And so we wanted to create an organization where we didn't have to make that choice. And we wanted to create our own blueprint for change. As our, Democratic candidates were talking about that. So the organization is a national organization. It focuses on speaking truth and providing a platform for survivors of sexual assault and other forms of violence in our community to speak truth. It focuses on justice, so seeking justice and creating justice as we see it, whatever form that may take. Sometimes it's art, sometimes it is using a court system or community system. Healing is a third mandate. Healing is incredibly important, as Sevonna just said. It's about really caring for the lives and for the well-being of Black women and girls, as well as their whole family and their communities. And the last one is reconciliation. So we're not here. We come in peace, right? We're not here to destroy or to fight, but we're here to speak truth, to seek justice, to seek healing, and do it unapologetically, so that we can reconcile as people. So that's what the organization does. We provide services, advocacy, and healing for survivors of sexual violence, crisis advocacy for survivors of sexual violence, no matter what their age.
Now, I think there's an elephant in the room, too, folks. And again, Sevonna and Farah the Black Women's Blueprint led the demonstration at the R. Kelly concert. Sevonna, I think you mentioned some of the pushback you all got and folks standing in line going to the concert. Let's talk about who these people are. Some of these folk that are still running behind R. Kelly and going to hear his songs, these are people. These are Black people, aren't they?
Yeah, this is right. So these are members of the Black community. And we also had pushback online. Yeah, women, from Black women in particular. That's right. And it's not lost on us that many of the Black women who support R. Kelly are also survivors. And so we have to think about, what does that mean? What does that look like in a community where we're trying to heal, and survivorship is a complicated space to be in, right? So you're having to choose between a celebrity's art and their politics, and you choose their art whether or not it their politic doesn't have your best interest or is against your own narrative, your own personal experience. So we were doing that kind of education and also allyship and advocacy. We are a survivor-led organization, as you mentioned, so we all are coming from the context and the perspective and the experience of survivorship. So we understand what that kind of complexity looks like. But that does not excuse or create space for us to not hold someone accountable and to also do the education that we need to do. So, yeah, we were not surprised, but we were very, very disappointed to see that a lot of Black women were pushing back and saying, really? Like, this is unnecessary? Like, y'all are...
What is their reason, though? Why? I mean, I'm having a hard time understanding how people can excuse his behavior. Or do they not believe the stories, or what? Is that what's going on?
Some don't believe the stories. I think one of the things that I heard the most is, why are we messing with his livelihood? And so once people think you're messing with someone's livelihood, it means that it automatically, it means you don't hold them accountable for anything. If it means if it means he can lose his livelihood, that was the number one thing that we heard. A lot of the folks who were talking to us, who were responding, said they didn't believe the women. They blamed the women and girls. They blamed their families for everything that happened, all of the entire history of R. Kelly. But the livelihood piece and the get over it, the other thing is, you're raped, get over it. There's a whole ideology and a belief in our community that if you're raped or sexually abused and you survive and you're alive and walking, that's okay, even though a lot of us are walking dead because of the effect of sexual abuse on us. So it's the get over it sentiment that was repeated to us a whole lot.
Well, let me just ask this too, and you all help me out with this as sisters. I guess I fear. I mean, he's in the business of seduction anyway. So I wonder, even to some of his fans, is that it too? That he's still even able to work that through the music, so he just gets that pass. You know, he's sexy, he can sing, he's R. Kelly. You know, is that part of it too?
Wow, I think that's a really interesting way of thinking about it. But we also, I think Farah was pointing out earlier about the grooming process, right? So then there's elements of coercion that go into, I guess, quote unquote, seducing young Black women, whether it's with money or fame. But that's also a power dynamic that we have to address, and that's a part of the spectrum of sexual violence. I think the other thing is, since The Color Purple was written, since Anita Hill and Clarence Thomas, since Bill Cosby, we have this issue within the Black community where there's this desire to protect Black men, and that means by any means necessary, and that can be at the cost of Black women's lives. And so we have to remember that this is deeply, deeply entrenched back into plantation politics and plantation activity in the ways that Black women, enslaved Black women, were forced to protect Black men even if they were raped by Black men, because we were all supposedly in the struggle together, even though Black women have been raped across movements within the community. And so sexual violence has been a hush topic for us. And it's like, don't expose us, don't air our dirty laundry within the community. So we have to get to a place where we can demystify that so that we can actually do the education that we need to do to move forward in a more healthy and collective way.
See, because my response is, see, and I guess I'm just, I mean, I bought into the struggle that you all involved in. So when I hear his voice, I hear sexual assault. I don't hear nothing else. And I'll even make a confession. Before all this came out, I mean, he had a couple of songs we liked. One of the songs that folks sang in church, including myself, I Believe I Can Fly. I'm not singing that song no more. And I told other folk in church, we don't even sing that song no more. It's nice, it's pretty, the lyrics are beautiful, but we're done with that song. Because now even the voice to me sounds like, this is what his voice sounds like, Farah, when he's seducing these young girls.
That's right. That's right.
And that's the thing that's scary to me. So when people go here, I don't even see how somebody can sit in a concert and hear all that singing he's doing and all that lovey-dovey stuff without thinking, well, wait a minute, is this what he's saying to teenagers? Obviously it is. So you're actually, folk who are patronizing that are literally, I mean, Harvey Weinstein is not a singer. You know, Bill Cosby didn't seduce women doing a Jello pudding routine, right? But R. Kelly, you are actually spending money and giving him money, so promoting his livelihood with the very craft that he obviously uses for seduction. I'm sorry, y'all. Am I saying too much? I don't want to.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think you're on point, and that means, there's a process that we all go through before we can become awake, right?
Yeah.
People say, oh, you have to be woke before
Right.
you can become awake to these things. And as Sevonna said, there's there's so much education that we need to do in the community, and there's so much of educating ourselves, or else our next generation
Right.
is already lost.
Right.
Right? So we're talking about this has been happening since the 90s.
Yeah.
It's 2018, and we have a whole new crop of young people, who are watching their adult role models support a person accused of being a pedophile, of doing things that we frankly, in the community, should have a zero tolerance for and should hold him accountable for.
Yeah.
So what is that? What message are we sending, to these young people? And also, I think it's a reflection of how we feel about ourselves in our community, right? How we devalue our own selves and those around us, those we should be responsible for in our community. And so you and I and Sevonna taking the steps to educate ourselves and really expanding our minds and really looking at this from a perspective of not only a survivor who's dealt with this, and you saying, I'm thinking, this is what he's saying to young girls. There is this seduction. There is this grooming process. That is what rapists do a lot of times. That is what child molesters do. That is what pedophiles do. There is a grooming process, not only of the potential victim, but of all of those around them, so that all of those around them, when the abuse begins, become silent. They become complicit.
Right.
And that is what's happening in our community.
Yeah.
Too many of us are complicit with the abuse. Too many of us are complicit with all kinds of abuse that are going on. And again, as you said before, it's not just R. Kelly, right? Many folks knew what was happening with Bill Cosby. Many people knew what was happening with Clarence Thomas when he was sexually harassing Anita Hill and many others who didn't come forward. We can talk about many other Black artists out there and Black actors out there who have been accused, Black prominent folks out there, and yet we remain silent. I think it's time for our community to stand up, right? I mean, we just had a whole period of Black Lives Matter, which hasn't ended, right? But whose lives are we talking about? Whose Black lives are we talking about? Our girls, our daughters, our mamas, and our young men, our survivors, because they're survivors in all categories.
Right.
Their lives should matter as well.
Yeah.
So what you're doing in educating yourself is you're affirming that. And we thank you for that.
Well, folks, Sevonna and Farah with us. We've ended the radio show, but we're still streaming the interview. We're live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Make it plain. You all can check it out there. I just a thought comes to mind too. You talk about, Sevonna, you're talking about the African American women who have still been defending R. Kelly. But what's interesting is we know it was African American women in Alabama that took down the hebefowl Roy Moore. Maybe we should have said then, Roy Moore is the white R. Kelly. And maybe what we ought to say now is that R. Kelly is the Black Roy Moore. Just to kind of show people, as disgusted as people were about Roy Moore, well, you can't be disgusted by Roy Moore. That's not even fair to Roy Moore. You can't say, I'm sick about Roy Moore, but I'm going to go to this R. Kelly concert.
Right. Yeah, that's something that we actually noticed in the Facebook comments and on our live feed. A lot of people were talking about how we have bigger fish to fry. We need to get Trump out of office, and it's like, how are we going to deal with Trump if we can't even deal within our own community, right? So this is something that Black feminists have been saying and organizing around for decades, and whether in their literature or protesting or legal cases against sexual violence. How are we going to deal with rape and sexual assault at home before we go to the Hill and deal with it? And I think that's where we're losing a lot of Black folks and a lot of people in our community, is that they're like, this is a bigger political moment than comes into some R. Kelly concert, right?
Right,
And I
right,
like
right.
how Sarah has mentioned it's not just R. Kelly, it's not just his concert, but it's sexual assault, sexual harassment, child sexual abuse. It's a pandemic in Black communities, and this has been a priority of ours as Black feminists. But it also, like you said, needs to be a priority in Black churches. Like, stop playing "I Believe I Can Fly" on Sunday morning
Right. Stop
in
singing it.
church.
And don't get me wrong, I think a lot of
Yeah,
people have finally stopped it, but I remember some people, we still like the
absolutely,
song, Remark. No, they don't do that no more.
absolutely.
Lastly, Farah, you said something else too that you talked about what we do within our own community in terms of healing and reconciliation, and we always reserve the right as an African people, I think, to deal with that. I just a thought crossed my mind as you were saying that, Farah, in terms of really addressing this. Um, is there a way for there to be healing and reconciliation completely? In other words, what if there were a space within our community, and we've always set precedents and been leaders in terms of humanity, and other folks follow suit?
Hmm.
What if there were a way at this hour, with these issues being as prominent as they are, what if there were a way, Farah, for there to be a space, some type of safe space for perpetrators to acknowledge their shortcomings and their violations and their sins,
Hmm.
and then a way for there to be an overall community healing from that? Because right now, what you have is people getting caught out there, and
Hmm.
then it might even address what you were saying, Sevonna, about how some of us don't like to see others of us tore down, even when we know we're wrong. You know,
Right.
don't tear this person down. They still need their livelihood, and we get all of that. That's very, very real too. Most of us Black folk, even when we mess up, we still doing bad with whatever little piece of whatever it is we have. And so you get pushback from that, obviously, because people don't like to see other people destroyed. But what if we could create a space and an environment where there could be acknowledgement, admission? We had a Million Man March, atonement,
Mm. Yes.
and then a healing and moving forward, where people would know, well, this is acknowledged. You don't necessarily have to be destroyed. And,
Hmm.
and the incentive for not being destroyed is that acknowledgement and atonement and some type of healing and reconciliation. Or am I being too idealistic and pie in the sky?
I don't think you're being idealistic at all, right? Everything begins with a dream, right? We have our leaders, we know that. Harriet Tubman, we know, began with, saying, what if there was a way to get folks off the plantation and get them to freedom?
Mm-hmm.
And anybody else would have said, are you kidding me? And naturally, her husband did. Are you kidding me? You
Right.
got to be out of your mind. So there is always, always a way. It takes commitment. It takes leadership. And our leaders don't always come from the places we think they come from.
That's right.
They can come from right in our community. Our grandmas, our grandpas. They could be anyone. They could be our youth, right? So there is a way. There have been truth commissions, which have
Right.
worked and some that haven't worked. There are truth and reconciliation commissions that have worked in every community. They have their pitfalls, but it doesn't have to be a truth and reconciliation commission, although Black Women's Blueprint did its truth and reconciliation commission over the course of 6 years from 2010 to 2016. And stories are still trickling in. We are still unable to fully close the period of truth and reconciliation. And I think as you said, for people who have caused harm, to be able to come into circle and into community and to do this process and engage in this atonement, there needs to be a commitment. We need to be prepared for it, but there's also a need for harm doers to admit and fully acknowledge and fully understand that they need to be held accountable
Mm-hmm.
for what they have done, and for the community to decide what that accountability looks like.
Right.
Before we can engage in healing, there's got to be accountability, and there's got to be a full acknowledgement, not a false acknowledgement, not I'm going to go do this so that I can, not feel so guilty anymore. But harm doers really have to come forward in a way where they truly understand the harm that they're not only causing to the 1, the 2, the 10, the 20 people
Right.
that they have harmed or that they have sexually abused or sexually assaulted, but the ripple effects that has throughout a whole family, and throughout generations of that family. So it is a process. It is doable. We have a model at Black
Okay.
Women's Blueprint.
Yeah, you said you all did a truth and reconciliation project from 2010 to 2016
Yes, we did, and it's still
on in
going
this
on.
area, in the area of sexual assault.
In the area of sexual assault, it was the
Really?
first Truth and Reconciliation Commission in the United States by Black women to focus on sexual assault and the effects of sexual assault, including the reproductive effects and the reproductive violations that we suffered as Black women.
And in that commission, in that process, did perpetrators come forward?
There were perpetrators in the space, right? So
Okay.
that was a process led by survivors.
Right.
We did receive one apology publicly, and we engaged in healing. We had a number of men in the space who didn't have to come forward and say that they were perpetrators. We didn't know one way or another whether they were. In the stories and the narratives and the testimonies that were submitted to us before the public deliberation of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, many men came forward and said, I have sexually assaulted somebody. I didn't know at the time that it was sexual assault. Or I have sexually assaulted somebody, now I know better. Or I have sexually assaulted somebody and I am sorry. We got those narratives. We got those testimonies on paper. And so it shows that there is hope, right? It shows that there is definitely a way. The Truth Commission went on for years with survivors coming through for years, really engaging in that truth-telling, in that healing process, and in determining what justice looks like for them. And justice is really up to how the survivor sees it. Some survivors will and some won't call the police. Some survivors will and some won't report to their college campuses or to their churches or wherever else. Some survivors just want to be reconciled to themselves and to their bodies, because what sexual assault does is it separates you from yourself first. So the reconciliation and the healing has to be internal. And then there's a reconciling with a community that rejected you, that didn't believe you, that shunned you, that stigmatized you because you were sexually assaulted, that blamed you. And so now the community has to also gather around, and every single person that shunned that survivor has to apologize and has to make amends and has to atone, because we're all responsible for every single rape, every single sexual abuse, every single act of sex trafficking and exploitation that happens out there. We are responsible. There's a huge change and a huge transformation that needs to happen with every single one of us,
Sure.
so that we are raising boys and girls and, gender nonconforming folks and trans folks who are not committing violence against one another, so that we can have peaceful communities. So that's what our Truth Commission was about.
Yeah, outstanding. What's next for Black Women's Blueprint?
Black Women's Blueprint, as you know, we just had a March for Black Women in Washington, D.C., in partnership with 3 organizations, BYP 100, Trans Sisters of Color Detroit, and then later on Sister Song. That was a tremendous movement.
That was in September, right?
That was in September.
Right, okay,
that was September 30th.
Right.
We are planning another march. We are also engaging in a deeper level of prevention and education work, because what we're noticing here online is that we're not reaching a lot of the folks that we need to be reaching. And so we're grateful to even be on this, in this conversation with you, where folks are listening. We are recruiting members. We are building ourselves from within, and we are also encouraging and supporting members of our organization who want to run for office, who want to be engaged in electoral politics, so that they can be the next leaders. The same women who said we are not going to have a Roy Moore, represent us, are these same women who are now thinking about running for office themselves, or picking their candidates and voting for their candidates. So that's what's next for us. What's next for us is we continue to empower women and girls in our community in particular, and we continue to engage in direct action and respond when something is happening. We continue to respond to every single act of police violence against one of our sisters, in addition to personal violence inside the home, which is really public and political as well, but people call it personal violence inside the home. So we're doing work both at the personal level and also at the broader political level to continue to mobilize people around this issue.
Very good. And what's next in the Mute R. Kelly initiative?
Yeah, as we go forward with Mute R. Kelly, we definitely want to support and shout out the two sisters in Atlanta who started that hashtag and have been able to actually cancel 8 concerts in 8 different cities. But we also want to expand it beyond Mute R. Kelly, right, and have a broader conversation about stopping child sexual abuse. So our prevention programs are at the heart and soul of Black Women's Blueprint. So we have a child sexual abuse prevention program where we're working on an incredible culturally specific smartphone application that is for Black communities, Black families to use to end and prevent child sexual abuse. We also have an Emerging Girls program where we work with an incredible group of 25 youth who come in and do community organizing, political leadership, education, street talks, and pub speaks in our community. And so we're really excited to continue doing our work with them as they are advocates and they took to the streets with us as well. And then we also have our Emerging Sons program, which Farah touched on in our reconciliation piece, where we really work on breaking down patriarchy, misogyny, and of course dismantling racism as it pertains to gender justice work. So we have some really robust programs coming up in 2018, and we're really, really looking forward to sharing that calendar with you all so you can be involved in that work.
Well, please do, and let us know in any ways that we can use these airwaves to be supportive and to mobilize.
Absolutely.
I believe in do radio, not talk radio, so I love to give out assignments. So, folks, we invite you to support Black Women's Blueprint. What's the website?
It is blackwomensblueprint.org. Go to www.blackwomensblueprint.org, all one word, and support Black Women's Blueprint. Join us as our membership. Call us at 347-533-9102. Again, that is 347-533-9102. Leave a message. Email us at info@blueprintny.org. Again, that is info@blueprintny.org.
Wonderful. You all keep up the good work. Also, folks, follow him on Twitter at Black Women's BP, doing this great work. This has been a great conversation, and as I said, do keep us posted. You have my email now too, folks, and Brittany's, so keep us posted on everything you're doing, okay?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. You both have a great day. Great conversation, all right?
It was a pleasure.
All right. Take care now. All right, folks, if all minds are clear, it has been